I know when you all see that video, you're like, Jeff, you need a bike, right? So I need all of your help. Let my wife know that so I can get that bike. But the funny part is, every time I see that, I think about when we were actually in there recording, we're sitting in there, and we didn't close down the whole store. There were actually customers coming in and wondering what in the world is going on. There's these strange guys who clearly shouldn't be on motorcycles sitting there trying to look real cool. That was the funniest part of working with all that. Now, thank you for being here. I have a question for you. The question today, what causes you to lose your mind? What causes you to lose your mind? Is it road rage? Somebody does something to you that just sets you off. They cut you off, or they're driving too close to you, or whatever it may be. Now, coming from the city, I was raised driving in the city, and lots of people, lots of traffic. That road rage, I will admit, was there sometimes, and I've dealt with it and worked on it. But is it sports? Do sports, is that what causes you to lose your mind sometimes? When your team loses a big game, or maybe a referee doesn't catch the call that they should have made, or maybe it's someone does something maybe to your child that's out there playing. Is that what causes you to lose your mind? Is it a coworker? Is it a boss? Is it someone at work that causes you to lose your mind? Lately for me, this is honesty time with Jeff. Lately for me, it's those days, which, it's not at all every day, but it's those days where I'm at home and I have these 3 little girls that are all around me, and they're all crying at the same time. They're all crying. I don't know why they're crying or what's wrong or what did I do to make them be crying. Those are the moments, I'll be honest, where I can start to lose my mind. It's like, I don't know what to do right now. There's just so much emotion going on. But I'm dealing with that as a father of only girls. I'll figure it out. I'll get through there. But anyway, that's the moments where I'm finding I can end up losing my mind. Those of you who are here, Good Friday service, you would have heard me share the monologue about a boy who found his father's oil and got himself in that all over himself and all over the kitchen and bathroom and everywhere. And he ended up having to call his dad to come and clean him up. Now, not to ruin it all for you guys, that wasn't a story that actually happened to me. It was a story, an illustration, a monologue that we used. However, and now, if you're wondering what that story is, you can go on our YouTube channel, and just that story is on our YouTube channel. If you wanted to watch me sharing it, I get oil all over me here. But anyway, that story, it wasn't completely about me. That story, I read through that story, and it was like maybe a week after I was introduced to that story, I started reading it and listening to it just to start familiarizing myself with that story. Where I was maybe a Saturday afternoon or some day where I was home and it was just really nice and peaceful and quiet, and I'm sitting at home and it's like, oh, this is so nice. This is great. Now, any normal parent of young kids knows you fear the moments where it's nice, peaceful, and quiet. I forgot it. Somehow I'm just enjoying this moment. I'm in this moment. Until one of my daughters, Clara, she comes up, and there's paint all over her hands, like white paint all up her arms. And I was like, what is that? And I start freaking out and panicking, and I go and run to the kitchen. And I get to the kitchen, and I'm not making this up. Going to the kitchen, there's white paint like up the fridge and on the table, and there's some on the floor. It's all over. I'm like, what? And I'm now in panic mode here. Go to the bathroom, and that's where there's towels all over the floor that they've been using to try and get this paint off their arms. And so they've been scrubbing and doing that. It's on my sink, and it's on the floor, and it's everywhere. And I'm losing it. I'm losing my mind in this moment because I don't know what's going on. Both of my daughters have paint all over them. I grab a towel, I turn the water on, and I get the rag all wet, and I just start scrubbing their arms, and I'm all upset. I've lost it. And it's in that moment where I'm scrubbing their arms, really frustrated, where I remember the story that I'm currently reading and familiarizing myself. The story where a father finds their son covered in oil, and he just calmly grabs his hand and just starts cleaning. And that father's representing God and what he's done for us. And it hits me, and I'm like, Gah! This is not how I'm supposed to be acting right now, is this state of lost mind here where I'm just losing it. And it hits me so hard. So even though it wasn't a story of me actually getting into all that oil, it literally happened that week before where my girls got covered in that paint. And I lost my mind there, and I needed to calm down and take a step back. So, welcome everybody to week number 2 of our Wicked Advice series. Thank you for joining us live here, and those of you online right now, it is great to have you with us, watching and joining us live. In week 1 last week, Pastor Jeff was here, and he shared with you, and we had this sweet motorcycle on stage. He had his leather jacket on, and was looking real cool because, he rides motorcycles, and I don't. I don't ride motorcycles. I don't know how to ride motorcycles. But I was like, I don't have a leather jacket, but I can one-up you. I can do something here. Really commit to this series. So I went out and I had a nice tattoo done up for this, just because, needed that nice feel to what we're doing here. And you're like, this guy's nuts. It's not a real tattoo. Although when I put it on, I was like, maybe. But no, it's from youth group. We have crazy stuff like this all the time. We're continuing this series, looking at wicked advice. Last week we looked at this losing your religion. Pastor Jeff talked through this idea and this advice of losing your religion. He went through and talked through on how the building that we're in right now, this building isn't the church. This is where the church is meeting here. Because we are the church. We are the church. That we're here. Church is he talked through and shared that church is more than just an event. It's not just the event you go to. It's the family that you're a part of. Amen. It's the family that you're a part of. And God has given this family, the church, He's given us a mission. And it's a mission to go and to share the love that He's shared with us with people around us. And today we're looking at the advice of how do I lose your mind? How do I lose my mind? And you're probably like, how in the world, what does this make sense? How does this make sense? It's advice that makes you think twice when you hear it. But this second part of losing your mind, if followed, it allows us to truly experience the change and the freedom that is found in a personal relationship with Jesus. Losing your mind allows you to experience the change and freedom that's found in a relationship with Jesus. There is a battle for our minds. There's a battle for our minds. It's the things that we deal with day in, day out. It's the struggles that we face. It's the what comes natural of just anger or jealousy or suspicion or greed or being untrusting. And it really all stems down to our selfishness. That's really what it comes down to. Is we're naturally selfish. We all are. And there's this battle for our mind. It's all these things that creep in there. And what we need to stop doing is stop allowing other people to cause us to lose our mind. That's really what happens when we're losing our mind. in those moments where I shared about my girls. It's an action that they had did, but really it came back to, I shouldn't have left a can of paint there. But it's an action that I allowed them to affect me and for me to lose my mind. So we need to stop allowing others. What we feed our minds is what we become. What you feed your mind, you will become in time. So if we allow anyone else to cause us to lose our mind, if we feed our mind these thoughts of jealousy, or these thoughts of anger, greed, whatever it is, we'll become that in time. So we need to lose our mind. We need to lose what comes natural there. If anyone allowed another person to cause himself to lose his mind, it's King Saul. King Saul in the Old Testament. Just quickly looking through, he fed his mind with so many negative thoughts like jealousy, suspicion, hatred. And up to this point in 1 Samuel, Saul, he had his hard times. Life didn't come easy. He was a king. He had hard things to deal with. And when he was in these times, he started to realize, okay, life's getting hard. My mind is, I'm having a hard time keeping track of my mind. So what needs to happen? I need some music. I need something to just let my mind at ease. So he sent word, I need someone to come and play some music for me. So they sent that word out, and they found this little shepherd guy, David. And he came, and David, he was like the master lyre player, which is like this little mini harp that he would play. He was really, really good at it. So he would play that. He came, and he played for Saul. And Saul loved it. All of a sudden now Saul was able to relax, take his mind off the troubles that he was having and the struggles. He was able to take a step back, and he was relaxed. So he said, I like this guy. I like this David kid. You're going to stay. He sent word to his father, Jesse. He said, I like David. He's able to help me relax. So he said, I want to make him my personal armor bearer. And when times then would get rough, he would call on David to come play his little mini harp, and it would make him happy. He loved having his little buddy David come and play music for him. Then the Philistines came into play, and they started, and they built up an army to come and attack the Israelites. So there were basically these two hills that they camped on. Over here you had this one hill where the Philistines, they were there, and they had their army gathering, and then the Israelites, they came. King Saul had all his people come, and they were on this hill over here. Just if you want to picture these two, they're bigger than this hill, like this, but picture bigger. Two hills that they're camped on. The Philistines are here, and instead of just rushing down the hills and fighting, they met down, and what they did is they had this one real tall, big guy. I don't know if you heard of him, Goliath. I mean, I'm sure lots of us have heard of this guy. Goliath, he just walked out, and he's like, let's keep this simple. Let's just, you send someone to come fight me. And if they can beat me, then we'll be your servants, we'll surrender. If they can come beat me. Israelites take one look at this guy, and they're like, not a chance. I'm not going that. You want to do it? Nope. Do you want to do it? Nope. And they started, and no one would. So then they went back to their camps, and then the next day would come, and they would meet again, and Goliath would be out there again, all big and strong, and they'd be like, anybody willing today? And no one again. They would do this, and do this, and do this. They did this for 40 days. It was on the 40th day where David, he was this little guy. He was dealing with the sheep. He wasn't in the army battling here. So his father sent him to go bring some food over to these warriors. And he shows up with the food. And this is when, on this 40th day, he's there, and he sees these two armies that are meeting there. And there's a big guy, Goliath, there, calling everyone out. No one going, and they just go back home. He's like, this is what you've been doing for 40 days? Like, I could see him like really frustrated here. It's like, I've been over with the sheep by myself while you guys are here just meeting in the middle, no one go battling, and that's all you're doing last 40 days? Come on, guys. And so he says, I can do it. I'll do it. None of you want to do it. I'll go do it. So he goes and he talks to King Saul and says, I want to do this. I know that with God behind me, this is possible. I know with God behind me, I can do this. So King Saul, he's like, I don't want to lose my little harp buddy here. I don't want to lose, but he ultimately, just to summarize this up, lets him go and do this. He says, yeah, okay. Tries to give him some of his own personal armor, doesn't fit, so he just goes out to do it. And I'm sure many of us know the ending here where he does it. He defeats Goliath. With God behind him, he defeats Goliath and is able to do this. And King Saul here is super happy. Against all odds, David wins that fight, and Saul rejoiced greatly with David. David continued from this point. So this is where we're at with 1 Samuel here. David continues to win more battles for Saul. Saul just gets more happy. He's like, yeah, sweet, this is awesome. You're winning more and more battles for me. This guy's real great. I'm gonna actually move you up higher and higher in the ranks. But it was at that point where he started to lose his mind. He started to allow thoughts to enter his mind and to take over. It was at the point then, David returned from another battle that he had won. And there were women there in the streets when he came home, and they started singing. And I don't know the actual tune to the song that they were singing, but it was something like, King Saul has killed his thousands, but David has tens of thousands. I don't know how it goes. I'm sure that's just how I read it. And it's the song that they sang real joyfully, praising David for the conquering and what he's been doing in battle. And this made Saul mad. It made him mad because now he's at the point where he's seeing and hearing that David is now, as he's been working his way up, he's almost worked his way up too high. And now the people, and Saul is now seeing that the people are respecting him more. And the King Saul, began to look upon David with suspicion. You can see that in chapter 18. Then, quickly overtaken by jealousy, Saul tries to kill David in a way that wouldn't be too suspicious, to just try to make sure that it happens. But it doesn't. Now he's fully overtaken by jealousy. He now he just straight up tried to kill David. Threw a spear at him while he was playing his harp. Throws a spear at him, trying to kill him. It didn't work. And then the king, he actually gives straight up orders just for his servants to go and kill David in chapter 19. Jonathan was David's best friend, Saul's son. Jonathan goes and talks to his dad and just like, Dad, this is messed up. You gotta stop. And David's not out to get you and all this stuff. And it helps for a little bit. But he's lost his mind here. He's allowed these thoughts to enter of jealousy and rage and anger and all of this, where he can't get past this. He then gets to the point where he actually tries in chapter 19 or chapter 20, he throws a spear at his own son because he's just so upset at what's happening. He has lost his mind here in anger and rage. By various means, God spares David's life. But it becomes necessary for him to flee from the king's presence. And the king then spent the next bit of time trying to find the boy that he had once was well pleased with, someone that he enjoyed having around him, is now hunting him down and trying to find him. And then when you get to chapter 22 of 1 Samuel, you see a king who's now completely lost his grip. And he's allowed someone else to lose his mind. King Saul allowed someone else to get into his mind. He's allowed his jealousy to take over, and he's fed his mind with jealousy. He's fed his mind with this jealousy. Now, what if I told you that there's great freedom in losing your mind? There's great freedom in losing your mind. You're like, didn't sound like it. We just heard, I did hear what I talked through about King Saul. It doesn't sound like there's great freedom. It sounded like it took him to a dark, dark place. But today, I want us to realize that losing our mind the proper way, losing our mind the right way, will actually bring us closer to God and ultimately bring more meaning to our life. Losing our mind the right way will bring more meaning to our life. And this is why there's great freedom when you lose your mind. There is. This brings us to Philippians 2. I'm going to read just the first 5 verses here. Philippians 2, there's Bibles in front of you if you wanted to follow along. Philippians 2 says this: Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Paul here is writing to the church of Philippi here, and he's encouraging them and saying, if you have any joy here, if you're part of the church, what I need you to do is make my joy complete. Make my joy complete, church. It's like that. I don't know if any of you do puzzles. I'm not a puzzle guy at all, but I did one before, and I was doing one that was a used puzzle that we had purchased just to see, and we do the whole thing. Sure enough, it's missing a piece, like right in the center there, the main point, and you don't get that satisfaction of finishing off that puzzle. It's kind of like that picture here. Paul is saying, make my joy complete, like finish off my hopes and dreams for you guys, and finish off and allow this to satisfy me, knowing that you, church, you're of one mind. This passage here, I can basically sum it up where he says, make my joy complete by being like-minded. Value others above yourselves and have the same mindset of Jesus. This mindset of Jesus, he actually goes in further here to say, the mindset of Jesus. This is the mindset of Jesus. Verse 6, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross. This is the mindset of Jesus. To humble himself, Jesus, to come down as a man and to take my place, to take your place on that cross and to die for something he didn't do, but humbly did it anyway. This is the mindset of Christ. He made himself nothing. Paul here, he recognizes and he tells us that if we want to stop losing our minds, then we need to stop being so focused on ourselves. That's really what's causing us to lose our minds. That's really what causes us to really be getting angry, or when I've lost my patience with my kids. It's because I'm thinking of myself. I'm thinking of myself, my own desires. It's why we get angry when we're driving and if you have road rage. It's because you think someone did something to you or did something wrong. It's coming from a selfish mindset. You see, we're so focused on ourselves. We need to lose the mind that we have that's so focused on me. We need to lose our minds and replace it with the mind of Jesus. Amen. We need to replace it with the mind and the thoughts and the actions of Jesus. We need to feed our mind with humility. There's a passage in Matthew where Jesus is talking. In Matthew 5:41, he says, "If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles." Like, okay, I don't really have many people asking me to do that. What do you mean? What he's saying here is it was normal culture here that when a soldier would walk up to you, they would ask of you, or they would be able to come to you and just say, "Here's my gear, carry it for me." And they would be required by law to carry this gear for a mile. And they would just have to put that mile in, do that mile, and then they'd be done. And they would just be able to put the stuff down, go on their way, and then the soldier could grab another person. Jesus here is saying, he says, here's how you show great humility. Here's how you do something crazy. Here's how you really show the love that I want you to show. When you're required to do one thing, do what's required, but then do even more. Because that is how you're going to get a crazy reaction out of someone. That is how you're going to show them a crazy love. So when you're asked to go do 1 mile, and that soldier expects you to be like, "I'm done, put the stuff down and go," when you just say, "Let's keep going," it's going to blow his mind. It's going to completely surprise him. This is the mindset of Jesus. This is what Jesus wants us to be doing. Is to go and to value people above ourselves, to go and show this crazy love to the people around us. Amen. What we need to do is value others above ourselves, as Paul is asking the church here in Philippians 2. "Make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one spirit and of one mind, and doing nothing out of selfish ambition, but in humility, valuing others above yourself." We live in such a me-focused society. And Jesus has left us a mission as a church, which is to spread his love with the people around us. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we allow ourselves to lose our mind, allow us to lose that selfish ambition, the selfish thoughts that we have, lose those thoughts and replace it with the thoughts of Jesus. Lose our minds and replace it with the thoughts of Jesus, and go out there and value others above yourselves. Go out there and show this crazy love that Jesus has shown us. You see, when you look at the encounter of Saul, when you look at Saul and what he went through there in 1 Samuel, he wasn't able to accept who David was becoming. And instead of having a mind that valued others, he did everything he could to try and stop it. And it brought him to a dark place. But it's when we value others around us. They get a glimpse, a proper glimpse of the love that Jesus has for them. And this brings us to the good part here, the best part, our homework. It brings us to what we need to be doing and how we respond to this. So I have this simple 3-step plan for us. The step number 1 is to right here, right now, ask God to help you lose your mind. Not in the way that we think, but truly asking God, "God, help me to lose what comes natural," which is natural to be focusing on myself. God, right now, help me to be able to put others first. Help me to really see people around me and to value them and to show love to them. Step number 2, then, is to not hope that this happens and hope that we figure this out. But no, step number 2, action item number 2, is to write today as you leave here this morning, as you go for lunch somewhere or as you're heading out, is to actually put this in place. Find someone that you can value above yourself. Find someone that you can actually bless in some way. Show them some crazy love. Find someone that you can walk that second mile. But do that today. Because you'll forget tomorrow. Do it today. Step number 3 is then do it tomorrow. Or some other day this week. That is how we actually get this mindset to take place. Is when we actually look for ways day to day to do this. Really, it's taking these 3 steps and doing it every morning. Asking God, today help me to lose my mind. Help me to lose what comes natural, which is focusing on myself. God, help me to find a way that I can bless someone today. That I can put ahead of myself, my own desires. It's when you replace the natural mind of focusing on self and replace it with focusing on others, that you're not only going to bring glory to God and make Him happy because we're doing what He's asking us to do, but you'll also be taking a step in making the world and Miramichi and wherever we are a better place. Because constantly, it's just, like I said, it's a natural thing for us to focus on ourselves. And when we do that thing that's unnatural, when we lose our mind and replace it with Jesus, it stands out and it makes the place better. God wants us to be going and to be sharing this love with people around us. What you feed your mind, you will become in time. Saul fed his mind with those thoughts of jealousy and anger. When you feed your mind on these things, that's what you're just ultimately going to become in time. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." Don't conform to the pattern of this world. Don't conform to being where you lose your mind over everything that makes you upset. That's what's normal. Don't conform to that. But be transformed. By the renewing of your mind, be transformed. By changing of your mind, be transformed by having the mind of Jesus. Being transformed is being one thing and then being able to become something else. Being transformed is a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. Being transformed is like what Pastor Jeff was talking about with the brick last week. It's a brick and has many uses, but when it's transformed into what it's supposed to do, you can build a beautiful building, you can build a strong wall. It's when we come together with like-minded and the mind of Jesus, we're able to do great things as a church. God has a plan for you. I truly believe that. I say it to the teens every week. God has a plan for you, and I believe that's why you're here. God has a plan for your family. God has a plan for your coworkers, your neighbors, the strangers that are around. What are you doing to help that plan? What are you doing with that plan? Let's become the church, not this building, but the people that are in it, the family that we can be a part of. Let's be the church and go from here with the mind of Jesus, where we'll show love to our community by valuing people around us, showing them that we care for them because Jesus cares for us. So will you do it? Will you lose your mind? Not like you normally lose it, but will you lose your mind and replace it with the mind of Jesus? Let's pray. God, we just thank you. Thank you that we can be here this morning and just really just be able to step back and just really look at you. God, I thank you for your many blessings and everything that you've done in my life and with my own personal story. God, I pray you just help each one of us as we're in our own personal stories. Be with us and help us. Help us to lose our mind one more time here, God, but to replace it, to choose to replace it with your mind. A mind where we value others more than ourselves. A mind where we don't focus on our selfish desires, but we focus on others and showing love and going that extra mile. God, I pray as we leave here today, give us those opportunities. Help us to find a way where we can value someone more, where we can point them to you. Because, God, there is great, great freedom found in a relationship with you. And when we allow ourselves to lose what comes natural, that's selfishness, and to replace it with love. Be with us today, God. Amen.